Mexico City. A powerful earthquake jolted central Mexico on Tuesday, killing more than 130 people, cracking building facades and scattering rubble on streets in the capital on the anniversary of a devastating 1985 quake. The nationwide death toll rose to 139 on Tuesday evening, according to Mexico's head of civil defense. Luis Felipe Puente said 64 people died in the state of Morelos, just south of Mexico City, though local officials reported only 54. In addition, 36 people died in Mexico City, 29 in Puebla State, 9 in the state of Mexico and 1 in Guerrero. The count did not include one death that officials in the southern state of Oaxaca reported earlier as quake-related. Hours after the quake, rescue workers were still clawing through the wreckage of a primary school that partly collapsed in the city's south looking for any children who might be trapped. Some relatives said they had received WhatsApp message from 2 girls inside, but the claim could not be confirmed. The earthquake is the deadliest in Mexico since the 1985 quake that killed thousands. It came less than 2 weeks after another powerful quake left 90 dead in the country's south. Scores of buildings collapsed into mounds of rubble or were severely damaged in densely populated parts of Mexico City and nearby states. Mayor Miguel Angel Mancera said buildings collapsed at 44 places in the capital alone. The U.S. Geological Survey said the quake had a magnitude of 7.1 and was centered near the Puebla state town of Rabaso, about 76 miles southeast of Mexico City. Mancera said 50 to 60 people were rescued alive by citizens and emergency workers in the capital. Authorities said at least 70 people in the capital had been hospitalized for injuries. The federal interior minister, Miguel Angel Osorio Chong, said authorities had reports of people possibly still being trapped in collapsed buildings. He said search efforts were slow because of the fragility of rubble. It has to be done very carefully, he said. And time is against us. At one site, reporters saw onlookers cheer as a woman was pulled from the rubble. Rescuers immediately called for silence so that they could listen for others who might be trapped. Puebla Governor Tony Galil said there were damaged buildings in the city of Cholula, including collapsed church steeples. Earlier in the day, workplaces across the city held readiness drills on the anniversary of the 1985 quake, a magnitude 8.0 shake, which killed thousands of people and devastated large parts of Mexico City. Thousands of Mexico City residents fled office buildings and hugged to calm each other along the central Reform Avenue as alarms blared, and traffic stopped around the Angel of Independence monument. Many people remained in the streets for hours, fearful of returning to the structures. Electricity and cell phone service was interrupted in many areas and traffic was snarled as signal lights went dark. When the quake hit, freelance reporter Manuel Rueda was walking outside a bank in the city's financial district when buildings began to shake. People here are used to encountering these types of situations, but this time, I definitely sensed more fear from people, he said on CBS. And citizens played a crucial role in rescue efforts, like 26-year-old nutritionist Mariana Morales, who was one of many that did everything they could to rescue others. She wore a paper face mask and her hands were still dusty from having joined a rescue brigade to clear rubble from a building that fell in a cloud of dust before her eyes. About 15 minutes after the quake. Morales said she was in a taxi when the quake struck, and she got out and sat on a sidewalk to try to recover from the scare. Then, just a few yards away, the 3-story building fell. A dust-covered Carlos Mendoza, 30, said that he and other volunteers were able to pull 2 people alive from the ruins of a collapsed apartment building after 3 hours of effort. We saw this and came to help, he said. It's ugly, very ugly. Alma Gonzalez was in her 4th-floor apartment in the Roma neighborhood when the quake pancaked the ground floor of her building, leaving her no way out, until neighbors set up a ladder on their roof and helped her slide out a side window. Gailid Lujanska was taking a class with 11 other women on the second floor of a building on trendy Alvaro Obregón Street when the quake struck and window and ceiling panels fell as the building began to tear apart. She said she fell in the stairs and people began to walk over her, before someone finally pulled her up. There were no stairs anymore. There were rocks, she said. They reached the bottom only to find it barred. A security guard finally came and unlocked it. Market stall vendor Edith Lopez, 25, said she was in a taxi a few blocks away when the quake struck Tuesday. She said she saw glass bursting out of the windows of some buildings. She was anxiously trying to locate her children, whom she had left in